Hi, my name's John. Welcome to a video review of this Tech TIG 160 FPP inverter TIG welder. I did a review on a TIG 160 a few months ago, which was a digital welder. This time this one's analog. All that means is instead of a digital display that you go through on a menu, it's got knobs. Some people prefer knobs. Personally, I prefer the digital readout, but I did used to prefer the old-fashioned method. Anyway, I'm not here to show you how to weld. There's plenty of people on YouTube who show you how to weld. Saying that, I have done quite a lot of TIG welding, and I'll be showing some welding through a welding screen to show the various features of the machine. Before we get started, there's one or two things I want to make perfectly clear. The first thing is Tech don't pay me to do videos. I do videos on Tech machines. I've done them for a lot of years now because I do like Tech welding equipment. I think it's good value for money equipment. Tech, however, do help me in the workshop. I've had computers and cameras from Tech to help us make more and better videos. And naturally, I do get really good deals on any welding machines or equipment or accessories that I want. I'm going to go through all the various connections on the machine, where you put the torch in, which way around it goes, where you put the gas in, how to set your regulator up and your gas flow. I'm also going to have a look at the accessory package, see what comes in there as far as torch, regulator and leads goes. One of the most important things about the whole set is it runs off one of them standard 13 amp plug. So you can get 160 amps DC for 35% of the time on 13 amp, which is a really good duty cycle. I'm interested myself to see what it's like because it goes down to 5 amps. I'd like to try and weld some really thin stuff with it. I've got a project going in a minute where there's quite a lot of stainless steel welding involved, and I'm going to use this welder to do most of the welding. I'll bring the camera in, have a look at the screen first, show you the connections, accessories and then possibly a little bit of welding. This is obviously the front panel of the welder. You've got your two DINS connectors, positive and negative. On TIG welding you go negative torch, positive earth, always. The TIG torch is negative and the earth lead is positive. That's a little port for your gas. The gas comes out of there into your torch, and that's the control port either for the switch off the torch or the pedal. I'll probably use a pedal on it. We'll come up and have a look into what the various knobs and controls do. First one here is our main power amps. That goes from 5 to 160 amps. These two here is post and pre-flow. That's how much gas comes out before it starts welding and how much gas comes out after you finish welding. Quite important. So it's post flow, pre-flow. We've got up slope and down slope because when you're welding with a TIG torch, with a switch torch, you can switch it on and it slowly ramps up the ampage and it slowly takes down the ampage as you finish welding. 2T and 4T welding, we'll talk about that as we actually start to weld. All these controls here are to do with pulse. We'll talk about the pulse when we start to weld with pulse. I'll power it up and show you what these various switches do. Power switch at the back. It's got a fan running all the time. The fan's not noisy, it's very noticeable. Saying that, I'm not that good at here anymore. Right, so your amperage control, 0 to 160. That's the only readout you've got. In fact, that's all you need. This one here is to do with your pulse, your high range pulse and your low range pulse, or your pulse off. That's it, off. That's a low range, that's a high range. We leave it off. 2T, 4T, as I've said, I'll talk about that when we come to use the switch on the torch. 4T, 2T. TIG and MMA stick welding. I'm going to do stick welding with it. These are really good on stick welding. At the minute it's set to TIG and that's MMA. Once again there's your amperage and MMA, which only goes up to 130 amp on stick welding. TIG welding. You've got your high frequency start and your lift start. Nearly always on high frequency. Lift start is if you're welding on a car near to control unit and you don't want the high frequency. You touch the tungsten onto the job, when you lift it off, the arc's initiated. But normally it's on high frequency. I'll turn it round and when I'm looking at the back of the machine. It's got a carry handle on it, which I personally hate, but never mind. The welders for me always stop on a bench. If you work going down the site with it, that could be handy, I suppose. Right, back of the machine, power cable in, on off switch, and gas inlet. That's from your regulator off your bottle. There's an earth point there. You can earth the machine to a steel bench to stop any radio interference. It's as simple as that. Very simple, straightforward, little lightweight inverter. This is the accessory package you get with a welder. First thing is a single stage organ regulator. I'll be going to use my regulator and not use the new one. Then you've got a plastic hose which goes from the regulator to the machine. Straightforward plastic hose, nothing you can say about it. Then we're getting an MMA cable, manual metal arc cable or a stick welding stinger. Copper cable, none of your aluminium shite. Straightforward. Personally I prefer the type where you put the rod in and screw it, but these do work fine. Earth lead, once again, copper, proper heavy duty job, DIN connector. Get a little pack of torch accessories, a couple of tungstens, collets and some ceramics. This is the torch. It's quite a big torch, but you need a torch that will stand the output of the welder. It's not bulky, it's not heavy. I like that bit on there. It's also a flex head. It's a WP17 type torch. That's the on off switch for your 2T and 4T welding. That's the gas supply. Obviously that's the power supply, in which case it's negative. And that's your control switch. I think it'll be a 4 meter long torch. Personally, I will be using a lighter torch because I wouldn't use the welder anywhere near 160 amps. I'll probably use a WP9 torch, but I'm going to use a torch that's supplied to the welder, and I'm sure I'll be able to get on with it quite fine. I'll show you how you install a tungsten into here. It's quite simple, but it's also quite simple to get it all wrong. I absolutely hate this type of packaging. I detest it. I don't know how you're supposed to get into it without a knife. The edges are sharp and you generally throw the bits everywhere. Anyway, we appear to have broken into it. Right, so there's the various parts. They're tungstens, two different thicknesses. They're back caps, long one and a short one, and some ceramics. These are very cheap, available anywhere. There's loads of different combinations of ceramics and tips and gas cylinders. There's loads of stuff you can do. This is basically a kit to get you started. The first thing to go in is the collared body. That simply screws in there like that. Then we'll put on a gas lens. We'll go for that one, which is a number 6. That screws onto there like that. Next, we'll put in a collet. You can't put these in upside down and they will work, believe it or not, but it does go down, pointy side down over. Then your tungsten or your electrode goes in. Then the back cap goes on. There's a seal on there, that's quite important. You tighten that up, just finger tight, and that locks the tungsten into place. Tungsten stick out, you want about 3 times the diameter of the tungsten sticking out, and obviously it's going to be sharpened. I'll show you that before we start welding. That's basically how you assemble the torch. They're all the same, they all work the same, but there is various gas lenses and diffusers and ceramic cups and clear cups. It's never ending once you actually get into it. That's handy, being able to bend to whatever angle you want for your preferred type of welding. Right, back on the front of the machine, the first thing to connect is the earth. That's the earth lead there, and that goes in to the positive side. Push it in, turn it, and it locks. That's all there is to it. Then the torch goes into the negative side. In there, turn it. That's the gas, which goes into the gas outlet, just to push, little PCL type coupling. And that is the switch control from the torch. That goes into there. It only goes in one way, like that. Simply screw, tighten it up. And that is connected to that switch, which controls the welding machine. On the back of the machine, power cable, hose from your regulator, that screws onto there. A little nip, that's all it needs. It's not a bad idea to get a little spray bottle and put some soapy water on here to check your connections, because any gas leaks on here will really affect the weld. It's not so much gas escaping out, it pulls air in and contaminates the weld. I've come out of the relative warmth of my garage up the garden of the shed where I do all the welding and grinding. We're going to couple the welder up to an organ bottle and have a little try of it. This is the regulator that Tech supply. It's got two gauges on. That's a bottle content gauge. When the bottle's full, it's got about 3000 psi in it. And that's an outlet pressure gauge. This one's actually set up in litres a minute. Goes from 0 to 40 litres a minute. We want to run it about between 8 and 10 litres a minute. That gives you a rough idea, but it's not that accurate. What you really need to do is buy one of these, which is an organ flow meter. They're not expensive. I'm sure if you asked Tech, they would give you one. That simply screws onto the outlet of the regulator, like that, and then your welding machine goes onto there, and you can adjust the flow. There's a little metal valve in there which goes up and down, flows up and down with the gas, and you want it set in between 8 and 10 litres a minute for normal TIG welding. Normal TIG welding, you use pure argon gas, not argon CO2, not pub CO2, pure argon. Some specialist welders use argon helium mix, but we're going to use pure argon all the time. And all this does, it regulates the bottle pressure from 3000 psi to a pressure we can use, which is probably between 10 and 15 psi. I'm not going to use this regulator because it's a brand new one. I'm just going to couple the set straight into my big bottle. This is the gas bottle I use. It's a full size organ bottle, regulator, flow meter, exactly the same. Gentle nip, gently turn the organ bottle on. Content gauge, I've got 500 psi lift in there, which is, for a big bottle, that's still quite a bit of welding gas in there. Right, the front of the machine, torch goes into negative, earth goes into positive. That's a little gas feed for the torch. I'm going to use a torch Tech supply. On the torch there's a switch which is connected to that wire. I've connected my foot pedal instead of the switch torch. It's just easier for me to demonstrate what I want to demonstrate with a foot pedal. We will be using that later on. We'll come to 2T and 4T welding. Controls along the front. We've got the pulse turned off. We're in 2T, TIG, high frequency. So all these controls do nothing. That's your main amperage force, the main amperage control, 5 to 160 amps. That one there is a pre-flow. That's argon that comes out before the aux initialize. I don't want any of that because I'm using the foot pedal. Your post-flow, that's gas that comes out after you finish welding. That's important to keep the weld shielded and to keep that tungsten in good condition. I've got that set in about 15 seconds. You want nothing to do with any of these ones. Basically all we're going to use is the amperage, that one. So basically now the set is ready to weld. Need some safety gear. need a welding screen and some gloves, and obviously you need to be working in a fairly well ventilated area, and you've got to be aware of fire risk and electrocution hazards during take it outside in the piss and rain. It's not rocket science, but it's surprising what some people will do. So this torch is now ready to weld. I've actually tried it, it works very nicely. We've got it dual tungsten in there, nice and sharp. I'll get a bit of steel, we'll fire an arc up and just do a quick run of weld. Ideally the metal wants to be clean and shiny, certainly no paint and definitely no rust. The cleaner the metal, the better the end result's going to be. That's why you keep that shielding gas over the top of the weld until it's cooled. And that's a DC, straightforward DC welding arc, exactly the same as any other DC welder I've ever tried. Right, a simple lap weld setup. I'm not the best TIG welder in the world, but that's not a bad weld. That brings us very nicely to the end of part one. First impressions are it's a nice little welder. It's got a real stable arc. The high frequency works well. I'm very impressed so far. In part two, we're going to get more involved in the pulse side of things. It's got a fully featured pulse, the same as my big TIG set. I'll show you what that does, how we use it, how it can give you not better but easier welds on stainless steel and real thin stuff. Then I'm going to put some MMA rods on and do some stick welding, because I do like a little bit of stick welding. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed part one, and I'll see you in part two. Thanks for watching.